You broke the Prime Directive.
You two-bit, crooked tooth, no good Ferengi! They kidnapped me!
Kidnapped? I sold you!
Ferengi rule of acquisition number 208.
Sometimes the only thing more dangerous than a question is an answer.
That's right. Star Trek Prodigy's first season, the 7th episode of the first season, First Contact, an episode name it shares with a movie and a Next Generation episode, is over. But we're just getting started here tonight on Live Long and Podcast. It is Thursday, January 13th. We are streaming here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Or you might be listening to us on the audio version. We're here to break down this newest episode of Star Trek Prodigy. We have a great panel to break this all down with and share some floor pie with. We got Jessica Chan. How are you doing tonight, Jessica?
Okay. Getting better.
Getting better, as am I. This is most of the world, a lot of the world. And we also got Davan Skelhorn here from Locutors of Trek, your cousin and mine.
Everyone's cousin. Here I am.
Here he is.
Probably healthier than you two right now.
In your nice Atlantic bubble.
Yeah, your Atlantic bubble. You Nova Scotians and your lower population and few more surrounded by water mostly. It's a lot better. But yes.
Wait till the fish get it. We're in trouble.
Maybe. Well, Murph can't. He's indestructible. I don't think,
Must
right?
be nice.
Murph is indestructible.
Yes. We're going to talk about this episode tonight as I'd say this was a real Dal focused episode in particular. We learned more about his backstory, what he was up to before he ended up in the mines under the thumb of the diviner. But we're going to break this all down. Let's go to Jessica first. Jessica, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, it was good. Not as good as last week's episode, so that was pretty high bar to set. So
last week was a pretty epic one. Yes,
a little bit of background about Dal, which was good, and introduced a few more concepts for the kids about what Star Trek's all about. So yeah, overall it was okay.
Yep. Davan, what did you like and what did you not like?
I thought it was almost as good as last week. I liked this one a lot. I liked how it just focused on a kind of a main point of Star Trek. Like the last one was Kobayashi Maru. This one's First Contact. I don't know if they're going to stick with that theme for the rest of the season, but if they do, I don't mind. It's another good intro for kids.
Right. Yeah. And that's really what the show is, like, kind of explain the basic concepts of Star Trek in ways that they can relate to kids under 12, let's say. And tonight we meet a character, a female Ferengi, a Daemon with her own ship, a Decora Marauder class. Davan pops up.
I love
here.
a good Marauder.
And she was fully clothed too. Shocking.
She's fully clothed.
The new Ferenginar.
This is the new Ferenginar. This is what you can expect out of Grand Nagus Rom. Right?
Exactly.
He's been in charge for at least a few years at this point, and he's not. He loves his Moogie. So he's going to. I was just like going up to my Moogie. Here we go. Moogie. That's right. If we see here that Ferengi ship. That's a big ship. That's a big ship. That's as big as the Enterprise D.
Marauders are big.
But it's only her on board, and previously Dal.
The interior looked pretty small. Like it didn't look very large.
It looked like a relatively small ship on the inside, unless it's a scale down. But in the episode, it looks like it's kind of the same size as the Protostar. So I don't know if this is. And we've seen like different birds of prey. Like sometimes they're much bigger, but they kind of have the same proportions to their respective things, but I digress. That's not the important thing of the episode. The important thing was meeting this Damon Tendi was her name, I believe. Nandy. Damon Nandy is played by voiced by Greg Griffin. And we learned that she's not such a not so admirable of a Ferengi. But we'll get to that. I also kind of wanted to talk about the kind of the intro, because it starts off really kind of somber. It's like Janeway can't figure out the mystery of what happened to her other crew. But they're not so hung up on it. They're playing around with something called floor pie. Let's bring it up. So they're just playing with the transporter, basically, right? This is the new toy they figured out that the ship has. None of them have any experience with transporters. It was just
I was confused about that. Is that like a Starfleet proprietary technology? Like, I thought that was pretty common, but
well, they didn't have one on the old Marauder.
Well, yeah, I'm like, so yeah, especially Dal, because this episode establishes he lived on that Marauder, and they don't have a transporter. And even if they don't have a transporter, it would stand to reason that he would have seen one at one point. But no, it's said that they don't, and they're just having a lot of fun beaming this apple pie,
Floor pie.
It smells amazing.
And it's delicious.
Oh, yeah, you can eat it right off the floor. That's how clean those floors are on the Protostar. And then they get this idea that we have to do it to a living subject, and they decide Murph is the ideal candidate. He ends up on the outside of the windshield here, I guess, if you want to call it that. The front window here. Where's my Murph quote?
I love you, Murph.
Yes. Yeah, so little just bit of fun here, kind of, to set up the episode. We go into the cult, we go into the credits. I'm liking this intro music more and more each time. It's like do 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 do. I'm like, yeah, like the music. This piece of music is growing on me quite a bit. Just like the Deep Space Nine one, the Voyager one. Even Enterprise, maybe. I don't know. Dare I say it? It's been a long road. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll just stop there. We got a couple comments here. Captain RGD saying, of course that Dal was raised by a Ferengi. It explains so much about him. Do you guys agree with that? Jessica?
Yeah, for sure. That explains a lot about how he's so tricksy.
Yeah.
Made me like his character a lot more.
Yeah, well, it gives he never knew his parents or what even species he's from. And then he ends up with Nandi here. And then, it wasn't, maybe it was kind of a mixed bag. It sounds like maybe he didn't have it quite as bad as maybe Harry Potter living under the stairs, but he was living under the engine in a hammock. I
thought that was pretty funny. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
All right. So Jessica, and then just a comment here too. I don't think the Protostar is very large. It seems it's only like 8 people on board, right? And it seems like it only has like maybe 3 decks. It doesn't seem like a big ship.
I mean, I guess there's only one private quarters, right? Just the captains. Everyone else is communal.
Everything else is a bunk.
Yeah. So I guess that makes sense because that may be smaller. Yeah, because a lot of people on the other ships had private quarters.
True.
Just the lower decks that didn't. So
yeah. So only Chakotay got his own room. Whatever other crew he had is sort of left out. And then we get like this transmission to kind of start off the episode. We meet this kind of ruse that Damon Nandy's going with, so at first it's like, is this mission going to be about, you have to save people when they're in trouble. That's what Starfleet's about. Jane was like, we're the only ship in 2 parsecs. We got to get out there. And but Dal's wise to this. He can see through because he knows the scam because he saw her do it in the past. He's like, you got some.
Let me guess. Your sick orphans have a bad case of the phage?
Yeah, and she's like, well, yes, they do. But then it all comes out, and there's almost like a joyous reunion between the group here. She does give him a hug, and she's glad to see him. But then by the end, she's like, no, I sold you, and I was always using you, and everything else. So what do you make of this relationship, and how do we inform it on Dal's character? Like, does she have any genuine care for him, or he's just something?
Yeah, he was just a means to an end.
A means to an end.
Like someone who was no longer useful, she kind of got rid of him, right? So I don't think so. She doesn't seem like a very pleasant person. I was immediately suspicious.
Yeah.
Immediately, especially when she paused, when she said, "I was searching for you for
years.
I was like, no, this isn't gonna end well.
No, and like he's you can tell he has this apprehension about it the whole time. Even when he's first talking to her, he's like, yeah, he's like, it's almost like, a family member that perhaps, or even a friend or something like that, who might, you have bad history with, but you also have good history with. So it's kind of like seeing somebody again you haven't seen in a long time, especially for him. He thought he was kidnapped, but it's also like, she's also kind of not good for me, and maybe.
Yeah, he's funny because he's very like he's untrusting of things. Like, it's weird because she's heard of the Federation, but he never has. And he was immediately suspicious of it. But then he's somewhat naive in these kind of things. Like, you'd think with being raised by her, he'd be a little bit more suspicious, but he wasn't. So
no, like how long he was with her and what went on is, I guess still be explored. But he knew enough to know some of the rules of acquisition.
Ferengi rule of acquisition number 208.
Sometimes the only thing more dangerous than a question is an answer.
Yes. Did you like the rules of acquisition that were cited in this one, Jessica?
Yeah, no, it's good. I like they gave a little background on the Ferengi, I guess, and kind of what they're like. Well, at least in certain Ferengi are like, not all of them, but.
Well, they have like their code, the rules of acquisition, but not all Ferengi are the same. Ferengi, like all the species of Star Trek, are diverse, and they have good ones and bad ones and in between ones. And
Eliminators.
And imitators and everything else.
Eliminators.
Eliminators, liquidators. FC.
Oh, that's what I meant. What did I say?
Liquidator Brunt. FCA. Where's my Brunt quote? Why can't I never find it when I'm in a hurry?
Oh, no, I meant Eliminators. Lek. Remember Lek?
That's Liquidator Brunt to you. Brunt. FCA. 52 discs of vacuum-desiccated quark.
Yes.
Keep the Wayoon quotes coming.
Those are Brunt
Jeffrey
Combs.
Combs, I mean. Yeah, I meant Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, he's the man of many different characters. And just this whole like thing where they just get played here, right, Davan? Like, this is a con from the beginning. And
there is the distress call forward.
Nobody's suspicious of her. Maybe Dal is the only one who's even remotely suspicious, right? And she's like, well, I need to get this crystal and we're going to trade this. And he's like, that's a Ferengi bedpan.
Yeah. I think he knew something was off. He just, I guess, he doesn't have a lot of experience with contact or first contact. So I guess he couldn't really fathom what could be so bad about taking a crystal from a planet. He didn't he wasn't that, knowledgeable.
Well, and like later on, Janeway will give them this pretty brutal dressing down where she's like kind of like a mom who's really just like so disappointed in you, like, how could you? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Where is it here?
You broke the Prime Directive. You didn't even go in with good intentions. You acted for yourselves, not Starfleet. You broke their trust. And mine.
Yeah.
Come on, children. Do your first contacts better. She expects a lot from these kids.
Who don't know anything.
Yeah.
She still thinks they're cadets, I guess.
I guess
there's no way she thinks they're cadets. Like,
yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense if she actually is Janeway.
But like it was okay. And so, but I guess she's trying to teach them or something like that. But so she kind of warns them right from the time they cook up this mission. She's like, listen up, I'm going to tell you about Prime directives. I'm going to tell you about all kinds of, we need to have a serious conversation.
We need to have a serious talk about first contact.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to, her tone here doesn't seem to get through. I think even Damon Nandy's like, where's her off switch? To get that off. How
much is she worth?
Yeah, so like that whole part of the plot is kind of really straightforward. But then there's this other plot, which is kind of like dealing with what we learned last week, the Chakotay angle, Davan. Captain Chakotay. Right?
Not a lot of expansion there. Kind of just a revisiting of what we saw before.
Yeah.
Well, I guess she zooms in and well,
yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to
we recognize who she sees and she doesn't.
Okay, so we saw a much better resolution here of Chakotay than we saw last week.
He looks cool.
He looks cool. He's got a little bit of gray in his hair. We can see here, but he looks relatively the same age as the last time we saw him in Star Trek Voyager. He's wearing a new uniform variant. You know, I'm big on the uniforms that I have not quite seen before. And then there's also, and I'll bring this down for 1 second. There's a kind of this whole magnification into the grid, and we see here who was boarding the ship. Is this Dreadnought?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. This is guy who goes Prodigy, Jimmy Simpson himself. But she doesn't. This face, this form doesn't mean anything to her. So the mystery continues. And so where do you think this is going? What were you? That's pretty much all we get in the episode. It was just kind of like she watched a little bit more of the clip. She's trying to unravel the mystery. The rest of the crew just wants to transport pie around and make shady Ferengi deals and whatever else. So where do you think this goes next? They'll figure out that somehow the Diviner is involved, the Dreadnought's involved.
Yeah,
kind of knew that already. What's the mystery?
I was curious though. They were looking for it, and they obviously already found it at some point. So how did they go from boarding it to losing it in the middle of a rock for years? Is interesting.
Yeah. Like there's a lot left to be figured out here. One comment here from Jeremy saying Kirk would be a better teacher when it comes to First Contact. I don't know. Kirk's
what not to do?
No, he wouldn't.
Kirk's track record on First Contact is spotty, I would say.
Yeah, I think that was the wink. Like, yeah.
Kirk was stronger at like space battles and that kind of thing. But
I was thinking of that mob episode. Like, man, early Federation did not do a good job.
Yeah, that was like more like a Second Contact, but where he's like, we're taking over here. The Federation's coming in, and we're gonna, you get a piece of the action.
I think that's probably why the rule. Kirk's probably one of the reasons why First Contact rules are so strong.
They have a lot of rules from Kirk. I think the time travel guys, Luxley and Mulder or whatever they were called, they were like he was a menace to time travel rules. 17 separate violations. Very disappointing. Just moving along on the episode, but that was kind of like the update with the Janeway thing. And then I thought it was interesting that they didn't beam down or take a shuttle down for this mission. They took the entire ship down.
Yeah, that was interesting. When they figured out transporters, do you think
they just figured out transporters?
Sort of. They didn't want to beam themselves out of
the ship to beam them back up, though. That's the reason. They all wanted to go.
Not Janeway.
But I guess she can't operate the transporters.
Well, that's inconvenient. Yeah.
Wonder how much ship control she has. I don't know that we've seen.
Yeah, I thought she said basic functions only.
This whole scene where they show up and they're sort of in this desert and they don't know what's happening and they get like surrounded by the cloud. And we kind of establish here one thing, which I thought was really interesting, is that Gwyn is kind of like we knew she was like an expert in linguistics and translation and everything, but this is the first time she's referred to as the communications officer by Dal. And Dal gets an other captain's log in this. So I just kind of feel like Dal is the de facto captain, self-appointed captain, if you ask Jankum Pog. But that this is like her skill, right, with the crew, and like she gets to kind of really show it off here. She tells them to all get down on the ground and show that they're not a threat. And there's even even they do here. Sorry, I've just been looking for the right shot. But when they all get down here, I thought that this was interesting, and then like let them invite this in, and this kind of works. Like that they they don't know what they're doing, but they're kind of muddling through. Murph, they left Murph behind. They didn't bring him on this mission either. He can't operate the transport, I suppose.
Oh, sure he can. Why not?
Yeah. Did you guys like this part? I thought that like visually it was very cool looking, but story wise.
Yeah, it was neat. I mean, it was neat to see a communications officer actually do something besides just repeat, like, they're saying that they're hailing us.
They're
That's
saying,
okay.
Captain. They don't like
I liked
this.
it.
Yeah, I like that she actually, like, they kind of, I mean, because in the previous episode, they're like, you have a role here, you like, her whole thing with, oh my God, sorry, my brain's not working. The space person, oh God.
It won't work for a while.
But she was like trying to convince her she has a role on the ship, but now they're actually showing her like what her role is and how good she is at it. So
she also has that like sword that comes off of her arm. That's her, and she's not just like a language officer, but she's also can hack things, I guess techno languages and things like that. But I thought it was really, once they got into the actual structure, I guess, the sand cave thing that was created by these sound wave beings, I thought it was very pretty, I suppose is the word I'll use. Just like the whole welcome to our crystal cave, and they're kind of explaining the science of it and how the resonance is creating all of this, and sort of there's like this great moment here, but then this is what happens when you bring a Ferengi along. Well, I don't want to be racist. They're not all Ferengis, but this particular Ferengi, who's clearly sketch sus AF, I would say. They're like all of the crystals are necessary. None of them are expendable. They're all unique, beautiful things.
Who was it at the academy that taught you that opinion of Ferengi? I want names, Dave.
Yeah, slurs about my people. And then the aliens themselves, they're kind of like light creatures. I thought they were kind of neat.
I like their design a lot. Really
their design was very interesting. But it's so brief. It's like this very quick scene, and it all kind of turns badly very quickly. And then she runs off with a crystal. They met, or a couple crystals. She's trying to steal a bunch, right? Initially. And then she's able to, they're able to get most of them back, but then they got to chase them down here.
Even though she said she only needed one. She's like,
yeah. And she said she was in deep with the sharks over her Dabo, Oh, the lone. But that turns out to be a lie too. Everything's a lie. It was like nothing.
This is extra funny that he had to sleep on a hammock under the
engine,
even though they had an empty Marauder.
Oh, poor little Harry Potter.
This must have been like 800 empty rooms, and he got
they're like, she's like, no, I use these for my things. When she finally gets out there, she's like got the crystal. There's this whole confrontation with her and Dal. I played a little bit of in the countdown, but she's like, the mines certainly didn't harden you up. And she goes, well, how do you know I was in the mines? You should know that I was kidnapped.
They kidnapped me. Kidnapped? I sold you.
She sold him. He's had a rough go, and this like she leaves him basically for dead too, right? After she bites him on the hand.
Yeah.
Not a great.
Yeah.
So, perhaps a recurring villain to make a return. I think. I don't know. We'll see if we
like it.
Yeah. That she's interesting. It's a Ferengi woman too.
I like it. I like this as a returning character. Like, give me a Nandi over the Diviner and Dreadnought any day.
At least it's a good thing you get backstory. Like, I like that they always, like, everything in this show has a bit of like a purpose, right? It's not like like she had this, we got some background on Dal, his raising, but also now we know like they jumped so far. There's no way that the Diviner was going to catch up with them by random chance. So the fact that she plays that part of like telling them exactly where they are was
Yeah.
so you know why the next encounter is going to happen, right? So
Yeah, just like maybe, well, I think in the early days of Next Generation, they had this idea like there would be certain characters we would see like in a few episodes, like, you know, like a Harry Mudd type in the original series, like the outrageous Okona, who I think we only see once. Actually, he was in Lower Decks too, right? So now maybe twice.
Oh,
Was he? Yeah, I think he made a
he
Lower
was
Decks.
in Lower Decks. You're right.
Right. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. The other thing I wanted to know is when Rainbow heard like the sandstorm is about to kind of consume Dal, they beam him out, and we see the same transporter effect with the floor pie, right? But here we see it with all of Dal. Davan, the question is, does this transporter effect remind you of the one from Star Trek 2009, the Abrams verse? It's got like the little swirly circles.
Swirlies.
The circle transporter. It looks like, like that scene where like Zachary Quinto beams down to Vulcan as it's just being destroyed in that movie. Yes, punitive.
It's one of the things in Star Trek 2009 I don't mind, actually. I don't mind that transport effect.
No, it's fine. It's just something new, something different that they've picked up here. And Alex Kurtzman's the EP of all Star Trek, and he was definitely involved in that movie. I guess, what is it, like now 13 years ago? So yeah, but so they get him out, and what he did at the last second was he threw his comm badge onto the crystal, and even though the ship cloaked, meanwhile she stole all of their, what was it called? This substance.
The Chimerian? No.
Chimerium. Yes.
Chimerium.
So this is the first time I can recall them ever saying that cloaking devices run on a specific kind of fuel. In this, it's stated to be chimerium, which Nandi had said that's hard to come by. We lost Jessica.
I feel like that was just maybe her type of cloak, because that seems like something we would have heard before if that's what Romulan and Klingon cloaks were running on.
But she said this was a Klingon cloak.
Yeah, well,
because she's like, I'll trade you this cloaking device, but it runs on a certain type, on this chimerium.
Well, that's interesting then. Little addition to the engineering lore.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't heard that before, but that's something that they. But she also had stolen all of this. She's like, you stole it, and he was like, well, she's like, your shields were down. There's Jessica.
Yes, I thought you were giving it to me. Your shields were down.
Yeah, like, what do you expect? You left the door wide open.
Yeah,
I come in and steal it. It's like your fault, really.
She was a good old school Ferengi.
Yeah, she was more of a Quark-esque Ferengi, ruthless. And so, like, they get the crystal back. That's all resolved. Janeway's like, who cares? You guys screwed up here. You made these aliens think that aliens are going to take advantage of them, are going to try to steal from them. That the damage you've done, and she's right. For a hologram, though, kind of preachy. I'm just gonna say.
I mean, they might have did. When you think about it, they probably did them a favor, because if those crystals are actually worth something, probably couldn't hurt for them to be a little more less welcoming to outsiders.
True.
They probably put her on board Chakotay's ship to make sure he doesn't, splinter off to the Maquis again or something. They're like, all right, you can have a ship here, Captain Chakotay, but you have to take this Janeway hologram around with you.
They've let Chakotay, terrorist Chakotay, back into Starfleet and promoted him.
He has an emergency loyalty hologram.
Okay, you can be back in Starfleet, Chakotay, as long as you promise not to blow up any Starfleet stuff and attack Cardassians, and you have to take a hologram of your old captain, who's just an emergency loyalty program. I like that.
You wouldn't betray hologram Janeway, would you?
Not hologram Janeway.
I'm just thinking how awkward that must be, just a hologram of your friends and former boss, just like What you doing?
Hey, do you need some help? Do you want me to get the systems going? Yeah, I'm curious to see what the backstory, when they finally reveal it, is to how Captain Chakotay came to have not only the ship, but this Janeway hologram more specifically. But
just wait till they unlock the rest of the Voyager crew holograms that were on that ship. Turns out Chakotay actually has like a hologram B'Elanna, hologram Tuvok, maybe not Tuvok, and maybe not Tom. But,
definitely not. I don't think you would want a Tom Paris hologram.
No, probably not Tom.
I'm trying to think who would Chakotay. Yeah, he wouldn't want a Tom Paris hologram.
Just B'Elanna.
He just want a B'Elanna hologram, but then he's always yelling. He's always yelling at B'Elanna.
No, he'd have a 7 of 9 hologram for sure.
Oh yeah, well yeah, he'd have a 7 of 9 hologram
for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if they. I don't think they kept their relationship going. She's.
Yeah, it might have ended awkward. You wouldn't want a hologram of like your ex.
True. Yeah, and they were like, well, they only dated briefly near the end of that. We think
not brief enough.
In an alternate timeline, they got married, and then she died in his arms. You know?
True.
Yeah, but that timeline was changed by the other temporal menace, Catherine Janeway. You know?
The great temporal menace herself. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing if Janeway had to face like a court-martial when she got back to the Delta Quadrant for crimes that her future counterpart committed by bringing all that technology from the past? And they used it. They're like, yeah, sure. Give us all this anti-Borg technology that we're going to use. Anyway, that's a Voyager podcast. But let's just talk about the ending.
Where's the Voyager podcast, Dave?
Where's the Voyager? Hey, we'll get to it one day, I'm sure. So a couple of things. So Dal's kind of shaking here after all this. He kind of looks at the chair and kind of walks away from everything. Not really sure if he's really cut out for this. If he's really meant to be captain, you know, and what he kind of feeling more confident after last week's Kobayashi. This is kind of really taking him down a peg. You know,
is that a recliner? Is that like super reclined?
It is a casual kind of like bucket chair, you know, for a captain's chair. I will say,
yeah,
you
really.
know?
It's not, was relaxing on the old Prodigy, wasn't he?
He's like, I'm not sitting upright. I had to do that for 7 years, you know, on that Intrepid bridge. This is the Protostar, dang it. You know, I think we're like, there's another character we haven't met yet named Commander Tysis, as going to be voiced by David Diggs, who I'm wondering is maybe the first officer or another crew member of this ship. Once we see who was here before they were, you know, and so, but no, it doesn't seem to be a chair for the first officer. Just Riker would not be impressed. And then the other final like little ending here is talking about like maybe this Ferengi being sort of a recurring demon tendency. She kind of calls up the diviner here at the end because this little probe box she has kind of tells her there's a reward for information on the Protostar. So she's like, yeah, I'll totally sell them out. This is called the Diviner, call up Dreadnought, and that's kind of how it ends. So we can imagine that they're going to be. This is like the first episode I think we've had no scenes or anything from either Dreadnought or the Diviner, right?
Yeah, just that little hologram, I guess, or not the recording that Jaemeel was looking at.
Yeah, I guess we saw Dreadnought, like, or some version of his species, I guess, or whatever he is, his android. We see him in that one shot.
Maybe that's why I like this episode so much. No Diviner or Dreadnought.
No one saying my progeny.
My progeny. Where's
that sucks too, because I was looking forward to John Noble voicing.
Yeah, you haven't been digging him as much, right?
No, those two are so Star Wars to me. Like, you know, every time I see Dreadnought or Diviner,
I feel like I'm watching General Grievous Palpatine vibe. It's very very weird.
It's like a Palpatine and Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah.
But I think like you think it's still too cheap, you know, because I think they're looking at like Star Wars Clone Wars and other shows like that brought in a whole new generation of Star Wars fans. And I think that they want this to have a similar kind of effect. So, but
I don't know. The great mysterious evil in the shadows is so Star Wars, and I just like not very Star Trek, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's like they tried it in Enterprise for a little while, where there's the shadowy figure talking to the Suliban.
It's also very like her relationship, Gwen with him is very Luke and Darth Vader
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the whole thing here too with Gwen and Dell at the end, where she, he's like, she, I don't know, he's kind of torn up about this, like, he trusted her, or he couldn't. Who does this make me? And she's like, I'm my father's daughter, and he's a jerk, and that doesn't define who I am. So, so they kind of like almost bond, I guess, over this, right? Have a little thing. Do you guys want? I can give you a few details discovered by Dave, as I like to call it. Fun facts.
Mm-hmm.
So this title was initially going to be First Con-tact.
Oh,
but
that would have been even better.
The title card just says First Contact.
Yeah.
Which is an episode it shares with the Next Generation called First Contact from their 4th season, the one where Riker has, he's an alien in the hospital, and he has to get out by hooking up with Lilith from Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
classic.
She's like my alien.
That's a good episode, though. The president of that species is quite interesting character.
Yeah, he has to have sex with her to get out of that hospital. He does it. He's a trooper. And then Dal is revealed to have been raised by a Ferengi woman, Nandi, as we mentioned. She's the 3rd Ferengi female after Pel, who was a love interest of Quark's, and Ishka, who is Quark's mother. Moogie. This is the first Ferengi ever to be identified as a daemon. She was also the first Ferengi encountered in the Delta Quadrant since Voyager's episode False Prophets.
No shout out to Prinadora?
Prinadora? Well, we never saw her on screen. We only mentioned her.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
That was Rom's ex, right?
Yeah.
On the Ferengi ship, we see a whole bunch of different things, including a Horgon and a Vulcan, a Vulcan Lurpa. I don't know if I can find the Horgon right off the bat, but you see the different things. There was there was a Lurpa, a Horgon, and a Klingon cloaking device. A few items seen. We also see her using a Klingon disruptor. Quite a few when she gets down to the planet, and she even fires it a couple times. We also there was 3 rules of acquisition cited. Number 1, once you have their money, never give it back. She didn't really have their money; she just stole their crystal. So I don't think that rule actually applied. Number 21.
You interpret the rules however you need to. They're open for interpretation.
They're a bestseller for
spiritual texts,
right? And number 208, originally from the Ferengi Love Songs episode. A reference is made again to the Window of Dreams, last referenced in the episode Lost and Found, as well as the phage. So the Window of Dreams, where she's like, well, this is where my bedroom was, and she's like, is this the Window of Dreams that you talked about? And he's like, well, yeah.
That was funny early on too. It's just like, oh, let me guess, and your babies all have the phage? Well, yes, actually.
Well, yes, a bad case of the phage.
No.
In fact, they do have the phage.
I like how the stories of the phage must have come through there. And lastly, this episode also includes the full text to the first 2 sections of General Order 1. That's where she's reciting all of that first contact protocol, what you have to do. Okay, so I think that was all the trivia that I found. I don't know if you guys saw anything else, but at this point in the episode or tonight's podcast, we should rate this episode. Excuse me. Okay, so first contact. Let's bring her up. See there. So just a couple of things. Right now it's sitting at a 7.7 on the Internet Movie Database, with just about 33 votes as of today. 40, up to 40 now, and they've gone down to 7.
They have it as the worst one on the IMDb. Yikes! IMDb doesn't.
It's the worst one, yeah. At this point,
so much better than the first 4 episodes.
Well, we're gonna find out. Okay, let's rate this episode. I'm gonna start off. I don't think it was as good as last week's, but it's hard to top that. That was a pretty fantastic episode. I give this an 8 something, like probably an 8.5. Evan?
I will give this one a. Geez, did I give Terra Firma a 9.2? Geez, I've been quite generous with some of these, haven't I? Well, I'm gonna have to 9.5 it then.
I'm gonna be mean. I would say 7.5. I didn't really enjoy it. I think I don't know. Someone like that evil kind of just gets on my nerves. Like someone that's just that. Nandy was just annoying to me. Like I just
and cruel.
Yeah, it was just over the top.
An old school Ferengi.
You do, and
she's like Brunt. Like I just like it's like they ran into Brunt.
They're like this is Brunt's sister.
Yeah, Brunt's sister. Nandy, FCA.
Nandy, get those clothes off. Diandra Pendleton-Thompson was the writer, and director Steve In Kang, Ann, and Sung Shin, who have directed it on an episode before. Okay, so we'll just talk about the title of next week's episode, which I know they have announced. I'm just looking that up right now.
Something about time, I think I saw.
What's it called?
I don't know, something about. I know that's time in the title. It's something.
I like it how it wrapped up all the theme of First Contact. It was a really nice little episode, I thought, where they beamed the crystal back in and it's still got the Starfleet logo on it. Oh, it was nice.
Time Amok.
Time Amok. Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
So it's not Amok time. It's so.
See.
So if 2 weeks ago was this is what the Kobayashi Maru is, and then this week was this is what First Contact is. This is what happens when Vulcans go into puberty. Is that what we're getting into next? We don't have a Vulcan character on this show. We had Spock as a hologram last week. I wonder what could possibly be the story. Time Amok.
T'Lyn is going to show up.
T'Lyn, and she's going to lose all control.
She's going to lose it.
That's a theory.
She has lost all control.
Live long and prosper, sir.
Yeah.
Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end.
That's right.
Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end.
All right. Yeah, so something with Vulcans and something with Vulcan Ponfar or something going on next week on Star Trek Prodigy. Are you guys still enjoying the season?
Oh, you know what? It's probably going to be a timey-wimey episode.
Probably would make sense.
Time Amok. They're going to be time traveling around. It's going to get weird. Yeah.
So it might nothing to do with Vulcans. It's just a play on the title.
Yeah, I'm thinking time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like most of the titles have been somehow like not the first two. Like the first one's called Lost and Found, then Starstruck, and then Dreamcatcher. These are titles that are whatever. But then like everything since episode 5, Terra Firma, Kobayashi, First Contact, Time Amok, and then the finales. So there will be next week's episode, and then there's going to be like a 2-parter finale, which will be aired in separate weeks. We'll be wrapping up February 3rd with the 10th episode. And ending up the season. I imagine so like if it is a time travel episode next week, I imagine we're gonna get more information on Chakotay, because that ship can only be there through time travel, right? It wouldn't have been there otherwise.
It seems to be. I hope so. They need to like tighten up some of these inconsistencies that time travel can fix.
Yeah, that they can just wash away all those issues and just kind of like move on. So like that. I think I'm curious. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what happened with Chakotay. Where's Chakotay? A character I sometimes have very little care for, but now I'm invested, you know?
Moya.
That's right.
I don't know. I really like. I mean, I was harsh on this rating of the episode, but it wasn't bad in any way. I was kind of annoyed by Nandy, so I think that probably made me kind of angry at it. But no, like I like the show, and I think definitely the shorter episode runs have made them very efficient in their storytelling. Like I don't think they waste any time on screen. Like either it's moving the plot forward, it's moving character development, or it's teaching the younger generation a little something about what the Star Trek universe is all about. Like I like everything is used. I feel like there's never filler or hasn't been filler in my opinion so far.
Right.
So.
Well, it feels like that on this show and on Lower Decks, which are like, the only two shows in Star Trek where they have to do it in less than an hour, right? They got to do it in half the time generally. And so they're just moving. Like this dialogue moves, and they don't spend a lot of time like sitting around going like, there's the Enterprise, or let's look at the planet, or just kind of some of the other stuff that they might have lingered on. So you take a whole lot in, and often I watch these episodes right before the podcast, and so I'm like, what the heck happened? Like it was quick, but I absorbed a ton in a short time, and then sometimes I need to watch them a couple times. Especially last week when there was like, here's Uhura, here's Odo, here's Spock,
I had to watch
Scotty.
that one twice.
Yeah, that one was. Yeah, this one I don't know if I'll want to watch twice per se.
Yeah,
I will. I like Ferengi.
You like the Ferengi? Yeah, you're a Ferengi.
I love Ferengi.
Stan, but you don't like.
I got my rules.
The bestseller. Okay, so.
Never hurts to suck up to the boss. Rule number 33.
That's a good rule.
Satisfaction is not guaranteed.
Peace is good for business.
Number 19.
War is also good for business.
That's true.
All right. So Star Trek Prodigy, 7th episode, First Contact, is over. We are done here on Live Long and Podcast. But guess what? We talk about all kinds of different Star Trek shows, not just Prodigy. We've been doing the new shows, including this one, but also Star Trek Discovery. It's in the middle of its 4th season, currently on hiatus. I've been talking about that with Adam Woodward and Michael Chan right up until the end of December. We'll be coming up in February. Pretty much when this show ends, Discovery's got to come back. So we're going to be talking about the end of that 4th season. Also, Star Trek Picard is going to be debuting in early February, and we'll be talking about that also here on Live Long and Podcast. I think I'm doing that with Jodie Simpson and Adam Woodward because they are the most excited about it. And then we also do rewatch shows here, including on Monday nights. We talk about the next episode. We watch them all in order of Star Trek Enterprise. We're in the 1st season now. We're just into, 6th or 7th episode. So check out that playlist if you want to just hear our thoughts on Enterprise. That's been a really interesting one to get into. Just getting off the ground. Just getting out into space. And then Deep Space Nine, we've been doing the same thing. We're watching all of those episodes pretty much since the pandemic started. So we are well into almost 2 years of doing this. We just finished the 4th season last night. Was it last night or 2 nights ago? I guess it was Thursday, right? So 2 nights ago, we finished up the 4th season. I do that with Davan. I do that with my brother Jeff and the Millards and Jaemeel Robinson. A lot of fun. We talked about Broken Link the other night, and then we'll be talking about Apocalypse Rising, the 5th season premiere next Tuesday. Check that out. Plus, we do something called Star Trek Radio Theater, where we reenact these Star Trek stories, like audio dramas, plays, and bring new interpretations. Commander Davan here, he was Zephram Cochrane. Jessica was a whole bunch of characters, most notably the Borg Queen. I was Jean-Luc Picard. You want to hear what that sounds like? Check it out. You can go back and listen. It's a lot of fun. There's this new takes on this. It's something we've been doing during the pandemic just to amuse ourselves, but it's been great. And I promise I will edit this episode, and then once I edit it, I'm going to think about the next one, our season 5 premiere. But I'm just I haven't quite got there yet. Also, you should what have I forgotten? Check out Davan's Star Trek podcast channel. It's called Locutors of Trek. He talks about different Star Trek things. He does trivia. He does debating. He does the Geetal challenge. What else you got? What's I trounced them.
You came on to embarrass us terribly yesterday, but that's fine.
The glory. I brought glory to my house. That was what I was.
You did bring glory to your house. That's true. Yeah. We've been supplying.
We are related, so I was kind of helping you out too.
No, it was good. Dave definitely showed up to win. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
It was like Dave versus Davan. So it was,
That's how we do it.
And Ashley Millard was hosting. It was a lot of fun. What's your next segment on
next
computers?
thing? Jeez, what is coming down? Well, we have a regular episode on Tragedy coming out as soon as I get the editing done on that. And then, geez, I don't know. I'd have to check my schedule. But there's things coming down the line here.
Right. You also have your X-Men.
We're on a bit of a kind of slowed down a little bit on the locutors over the holidays, and just gonna kind of kick it back to gear in the new year.
Check out your X-Men the animated series, X-Rated, where you talk about all those shows from X-Men the animated series. You're now on Tuesdays, I believe.
Now on Tuesdays at 8 Atlantic, 7 Eastern.
Atlantic.
Join us live or listen after the fact. The next one will be The Cure.
The Cure?
Mm-hmm.
The Cure.
Learn about the mutant cure.
Uh-oh. That sounds like conversion therapy.
It basically is.
All right. Doesn't sound too good. But it does sound good, but not that particular thing. So check out both of Davan's podcasts. Also check out our other channels related to it. We have one called Trivial Debates, a monthly show where we argue about movies, TV, sports, in a game show format. Davan is set to host our next one. We usually do this on the last Sunday of the month, but we are pushing this out to February 6th so we can include the great Chris Seymour, Trivial Debates legend, veteran, not very successful contender, but always funny, always entertaining in his responses.
Welcome to my parlor, said the spider to the fly.
And 2 other contestants still to be determined, but that will be coming up February 6th, as mentioned. And you should also check out our other channel, Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, where we talk about movies and TV that isn't Star Trek. So like we have Live Long and Podcast for anything Star Trek, which is a lot. We're busy on that, and then on Super Mater Brothers, it's anything else that catch-all kind of thing. Most notably, we focus on Marvel properties. We did the Hawkeye review recently. We did Spider-Man in December when that came out. Also, reality TV shows like Big Brother, Survivor. We're going to be doing Big Brother Celebrity 3 is coming up in just a couple of weeks, I think. So February is going to be a busy month, and then Big Brother Canada coming up in March, I believe. So I'm still waiting for my call. What's going on global? All right. Well, I think those are all the podcasts. I think that's anything else I forgot to mention. If not, I think we can close the books here on Prodigy's version of First Contact. Okay. And let's go out with a good one here. Just because you love those Ferengi so much, let's go out with a Ferengi quote. All right. Davan, Jessica, thanks for your time tonight, and live long and podcast. We will see you next time.
Oh, my lobes are tingling with opportunity.